All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. Today we have, we're going to hear some remarks from Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling and also the Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle. Today, after the press conference, we're going to be having an executive steering committee upstairs in the Chicago field office, which is basically a review of where we're at on the security plan to date. So also with us, we have Chief of Counterterrorism, Dwayne DeVries, and DNC Coordinator, Jeff Burnside. So thanks again, and Superintendent, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. Good morning. We're here today with our partners from the Secret Service for an executive steering committee meeting. During this meeting, we will report out on where we stand with preparations for the upcoming Democratic National Convention. Though we are the lead agencies for public safety planning, we also have our city, local, state, and federal partners who have been working for more than a year getting Chicago ready for the DNC. With 2 months left until the convention, we're finalizing plans and making sure all of our operations are set. Make no mistake, we are ready. The partnership, collaboration, and open communication between everyone involved is why we are ready. Meetings like the one we are having today allow us to regularly check in and ensure we are aligned. This is truly a government-wide effort. Our priority is protecting the city and the people of Chicago, as well as those in town for the convention. Like with many other major events we have secured before, the partnership that we have with all the agencies involved in this planning is vital. As the Secret Service prepares to protect the convention footprint, the Chicago Police Department has been working internally to train our officers for the large-scale First Amendment activity we're expecting during the DNC. We're working to be proactive in de-escalating situations rather than reactive to what may occur. Constitutional policing and the First Amendment are the foundation of everything we're doing, from policies to training. We want people to express their rights safely and responsibly, and we will protect them. But we are not going to tolerate crime, violence, and vandalism. We will always protect our city. We are ready, and we will continue to be ready as we head into August. I want to thank Director Cheatle and DNC Coordinator Jeff Burnside for their leadership. I also want to thank every agency and department that has been working to get ready for the convention. I'll now turn it over to Director Kimberly Cheatle.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today with the superintendent, with the Chicago Police Department, our partners who have been assisting us working the planning and preparation for this NSSE, National Special Security event, the Democratic National Convention that will be hosted here in this great city in 2 months. It's great to be back here in Chicago. I actually grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, so I'm very familiar with the city, very familiar with the police department. We've got a tremendous working relationship with the Chicago Police, as well as a multitude of other agencies, both local and federal, that will be contributing to this whole of government approach that we are taking with this NSSE. So we're very excited to be here. We're excited to execute our plans that we've been doing for the better part of a year, and look forward to answering any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Superintendent. Okay, so now we have time for some questions. I'll open it up.
Can you give some more details about the types of training that the officers are undergoing, what it looks like, how often, how many officers are being trained?
Sure. First off, every aspect of the training, as I've said before, is rooted in First Amendment and Fourth Amendment training. We want to make sure that our officers are prepared to police constitutionally and deal with large-scale protests. The training is designed to help the officer understand that we need to de-escalate, be proactive, to prevent the possibility of violence and vandalism. So we want to put a stop to those things before they start, if that's at all possible. However, we are also preparing for worst case scenarios, just in case things go badly. If people show up and they want to act out violently or they want to commit acts of vandalism, our officers are trained in what's called field force operations. So our officers are prepared to deal with that also. Our mass arrest policy is in place that has just been agreed upon, and the coalition had some concerns about it. We've addressed those and we've worked that out. So our mass arrest policy is in place just in case. But keep in mind, mass arrest is the last resort. If we don't have to arrest one person, we don't want to have to do that, if that's at all possible. But we know the realities of these types of situations, especially when the number of people we're expecting to converge upon Chicago is inevitable. That there is a possibility for vandalism, there is a possibility for violence, and we're prepared to deal with that. So the training is just, it's a combination of all of those things: constitutional policing, mass arrest policies, and the ability to deal with civil unrest that could turn into a riot.
And that's all officers?
All officers are going through the training, but we have specific officers between the number between 2,500 to 3,000 that we're training to respond directly to civil unrest and the possibility of riots. But all of our officers are trained.
So can you, what's going to be the role of the outside agencies for mutual aid? Because it's tough to train everybody at that level when you have people coming from, outside jurisdictions. So what is the role of the outside agencies going to be?
The role of the outside agencies is going to be support, right? So they're going to supplement certain things. What we don't necessarily want to do is bring in outside agencies who have not had the same training our officers have had. So where we can use those officers for security, that's exactly what we plan to do. That'll free up our officers who have the full training to go out and deal with the possibility of civil unrest.
Director Cheatle, can you speak to the possibility of Russian interference? We've read some reports about that recently that suggest that that will be on your radar for various reasons. Can you just address what the potential of Russian interference could be like, and if you are anticipating?
Sure, I'm aware of those reports that are out. I would obviously defer you to the FBI on specifics regarding that report, but I can tell you that that is one of the great things about planning an NSSE and that whole of government approach, is that we're able to bring all of those resources to bear and be able to analyze and collect intelligence from all of our partners. And so that is one of many scenarios that we plan for and have been planning for the past better part of a year to be able to mitigate.
Director, can you just articulate, when you look at the overall threat landscape, what trend is most alarming to you?
I don't know that there's a specific trend that's alarming. I think, again, our focus is to ensure that we cover off on all the potential challenges that we may face during this event and make sure that we are fully prepared for it, and I do believe that we are.
And then, just as a follow-up, what impact did the Trump verdict have on the threat landscape? And then moving forward, what impact do you think a possible prison sentence will have on that threat landscape, and then specifically security for the DNC?
We have not seen an impact to date with that.
Can you also
Director,
address?
could you discuss the difference between Chicago and Milwaukee? I know you're going to be in Milwaukee on Thursday, but do you see this as often the Democrats attract more protesters? Will there be a difference, do you believe, in how it is handled by all of you?
So with both NSSEs, both conventions in Milwaukee and Chicago, we've had people in place planning with our local partners, again, for the better part of over a year now. So each convention is unique and it's different. Each city is unique and different. The events that take place, the venues are different, the schedule of events are different. So there are going to be differences that you're going to see between each convention. But for us, security and the security plan remains the same. So we're making sure that we have, with all of our partners, planned for every eventuality.
Could I just follow up? There is a sense, whether it's fair or not, the public feels like, get out of here, don't be here, it's going to be awful. What do you say to those that fear that it's not a good place to be if you have to live and work and you're not a part of the convention?
What I would say, and I would certainly allow the superintendent to speak to his city as well, is that we have done an extraordinary amount of outreach with the local community, and we've made very sure that the footprint that we have for security is as minimal an impact to residents, businesses, neighborhoods as possible. We realize that, and we want to make sure that people want to be able to come in and enjoy the conventions and be able to see the sites and enjoy, being in their neighborhoods and not having to impact their lives to a great extent.
Can you speak to the complaints that higher-ups in the Republican Party have made about the footprint that at least appears to be allowing demonstrators to get closer to the Republican convention versus what we're going to see here in Chicago?
So I know we're here to talk about the DNC, and I appreciate the fact that you're asking about the RNC. What I can tell you is that we have been in contact with the RNC. I have personally been in contact with members of the RNC, the chairman of the RNC, and we continue to work with them on those security plans.
I have one more, sorry, can I ask one more question? I think, we'd be curious to hear any data points you guys have, like how many protesters are you thinking, how many law enforcement are you thinking? So anybody who wants to speak to that or can speak to that.
Well, what I can tell you is we can't put a number right now on how many protesters we're expecting because that's unpredictable. We don't necessarily know who's going to show up here, but we are prepared for that. Our numbers with the Chicago Police Department are our numbers. We'll be prepared. We're looking at extensions of working day hours and cancellations of days off during that week to ensure that we have the manpower that we need. And when we talk about mutual aid, we have upwards of 400 officers who are going to be coming in to assist. So we'll strategically place those officers at locations that's going to be helpful to the Chicago Police Department to free up some of our people to make sure that they're available, like I said again, for the possibility of civil unrest.
Superintendent, you mentioned earlier that you just finalized your mass arrest policy. What is that?
Well, the mass arrest policy is just a policy in case we have to declare a mass arrest, where there are crimes being committed and there's probable cause to make arrests in those situations. Usually, those are situations that are violent, where people are actively vandalizing things, or even if it's not an act of violence and it appears peaceful, but it's a violation of the law, blocking roadways, blocking venues, things of that nature. We will declare mass arrests in those situations and make those arrests. And again, it's also rooted in constitutionality.
Operationally, how is that different from your normal arrest policy?
Well, it's not necessarily different from our normal arrest policy, but because we're looking at the possibility of large-scale protests, it's different in that way. If we had an event that occurred in the city of Chicago that wasn't a protest, but a large gathering and we declared a mass arrest, it would be the same thing. The only difference here is there's a greater possibility of that occurring because of the possibility of protest.
And so this has been all communicated.
Hold on 1 second, Craig. She's had her hand up for a while.
County State's Attorney's Office had a decision that arrests would only be made if there was video. Is that still part of the Democratic Convention?
Well, what I can tell you is I have not had that conversation right now with the state's attorney's office. I do have a pretty good working relationship with State's Attorney Fox. What I will tell you is moving forward, I'm sure we will have those conversations, but right now, that is not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is making sure that our officers are prepared to deal with any situation that we may face.
So we have to get upstairs to the ESC committee meeting, so we have time for one or two more
Just want to
questions.
follow up, so all this
How about-
policy about mass arrest has been communicated to the coalition that is planning these demonstrations, correct? They're aware of this?
I'm sorry,
The
Craig.
coalition, you said you had conversations with the coalition. They are aware that if they block roads or do anything like that, mass arrest policy could be initiated, correct?
Well, all of this is part of the conversation with the coalition. This is all a part of the consent decree. This was pushed through the IMT, so they're aware of the mass arrest policy. That's where the approval of it came through. But everyone needs to understand, and I want everyone to have this education, that peaceful protest does not necessarily mean that someone is exercising their First Amendment rights. First Amendment protection is only there if you're not committing a crime. And you can be acting out peacefully, but still breaking the law. So if you sit in if you block a roadway, or you block a venue, or you're on private property and you refuse to leave, those are crimes. Now, you don't have to be acting out violently to commit a crime. So we want people to understand that First Amendment protection, let's not confuse that with peaceful protest. If you're protesting peacefully and you're not breaking the law, then you have First Amendment protections. But the minute you start to break the law, you're not protected under the First Amendment at that point.
How many hours are the police, that 400, expected to work during this convention period?
So we haven't decided that yet, but once we determine where we're going to place those officers, we'll be able to determine how many hours we need them to work at that point.
Are you still getting help from outside police townships?
That's the mutual aid part of it, yes. So we're looking at upwards of 400 officers. I think you had a question.
Superintendent, you touched upon this a little bit earlier, referencing the OIG report that came out and some concerns in there. Again, you mentioned in the police department's response that the OIG didn't necessarily give any recommendations to the police department. Can you say definitively, though, if the police department made any changes to the mass arrest policy in response to the OIG report?
Well, when the OIG report came out, we were already in the works of making those changes. Since then, since that report was released, and if you look online, we have a response to that, to every statement that was made by the OIG and all of their concerns. Since then, I've actually had a conversation with Inspector General Deborah Witzberg. We had a very fruitful conversation about things, and we're looking forward to working together to make sure that we address any issues that the IG's office may have regarding our training. As a result of that, Thursday, we're going to be doing a press event around our training, and Inspector General Witzberg will be attending. So I look forward to working with her. I look forward to working with the IG's office to address those issues.
So you don't see any changes between now and the DNC to that process?
Well, I can't say that we don't see any changes. Everything is always evolving within the police department. So if we see something that we feel like we need to make some changes to based on intelligence or anything that we see coming our way, we will make those changes. So I won't stand here. I'm very happy with the policy that we have right now, but that's not to say that it can't be improved.
Has the police department engaged in direct
Thank you.
communication with the Coalition of March?
Last question. Yes. This has gone through, the coalition works closely with our independent monitoring team. So they have some input on some of the things that we do. If they have concerns, we address those concerns and we get back to them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. They have to get upstairs, so appreciate you coming out, and have a good day.